Yo, hello guys, and today I'm back with you all again. So today, I'm going to give you an example of Metalstep, okay? If you don't know the definition of Metalstep, it's a mix between metal and dubstep music. In this example, we can see the tempo is at 140 BPM. Moving on to the components we need to make Metalstep music. In the verse, I'm not using any dubstep hi-hats at all. Instead, I'll try a trap style to make it sound a bit unique. But don't worry, there will be dubstep later.
Yeah, boy.
My guitar for this set will still be AIM, Metal Eclipse. Alright, so here, you guys can go ahead and take a listen to how the verse riff actually sounds, just so you can get a feel for it first. Let's check it out together. The way I wrote the riff for this example is quite heavy and aggressive. Combined with the guitar, we'll have a trap drum section. It'll include a kick like this. A classic open hi-hat sound. Next is the snare. You can hear the snare sounds very crisp, and it also resonates, because for the snare, I use the fruity reverb. Next up is a triangle loop. And finally, a closed hat loop. Alright, now let's listen to the whole drum part first. See, you guys can hear this drum part already has a lot of trap characteristics. So the next component I'll share with you is the 808 bass, an element that's truly indispensable. Without this, it wouldn't be called trap anymore. Simple as that. It's an 808 kick from the Flex kit. If you don't know, Flex is actually a pretty decent stock plugin. It can really help you out when you're going all in with stock plugins. And here's what I wrote for the 808. One thing to note here is that in this example, I wrote the 808 to be a bit more floaty, but we'll make it feel a bit more ethereal by placing slides at certain points. The way to get that slide is simple. First, we can just place any note like this. Next, just double-click that note and select the right triangle here, the slide, hit accept, and then we'll have a slide section. So that's what I wrote for the 808. And now we'll move on to the final component, which is a combination of two types of stabs. First up is the big stab. Next, we're going to have a brass stab. So I'm adding the stabs into this trap verse to support and emphasize the beginning of the phrases and the ends too, to create some rhythmic accents. Now, let's listen to all the elements in the trap verse together. You'll notice that when those stabs hit, the rhythmic emphasis feels much more solid. This happens because the sharp, punchy sound of each stab really stands out against the rest of the music, making the beat feel stronger and more defined. If you listen closely, you can hear how every stab helps to highlight the underlying rhythm, giving the whole section a tighter, more energetic feel. These accents add a sense of drive and excitement, making the music come alive and drawing you in as a listener. Next, we'll move on to the build-up. In this build-up, that same riff we heard in the trap verse will remain exactly the same. However, our drums are starting to change. Instead of the full drum kit from the trap section, we're just keeping the kick. As you can see, the kicks are laid out very evenly, and once we hit bar 23, it starts jumping rapidly like this. So it'll sound like this. Along with that, we'll have a long sweep. specifically the scary long sweep from KSMR. Finally, we're going to have a build-up loop section, which helps create more excitement and anticipation as the music progresses. So when we put it all together, it'll sound like this. Listening to it will create a feeling that we are building up to open up the next section. And my choice of the scary sound, well, it's not actually meant to be that scary because the sound itself is quite unique and cool, especially this build-up loop. When I selected this specific part, I calculated it so that the music would sound more bouncy. Instead of just turning off this loop section, suddenly you guys would hear it feeling much more empty. It wouldn't be as satisfying. Clearly, we can see it feels much more lagging. And at the end of this build-up, we'll start to introduce some effects, as you can see right here, which are what? The zoom reverse symbol from Somatics. This is used to transition from the build-up to the drop. Next, we'll have a combination of a gun talk
Nice.
Do you guys hear that reloading sound? It's like a way to open up the next part. A gun cock and our entire guitar section. Okay, notice that I've placed a filter here, and it stretches from the beginning to the end of the build-up. Actually, setting it like this is a bit silly.
What the hell?
But it's fine, because at least it's easy to visualize that. The filter wasn't there in first, and then it starts appearing at the end. Then you see it being pulled up to 100%. So this filter makes the guitar sound a bit like a radio. I'll let you guys hear it. And only until the very last note of that riff, that final chord, does it finally open up. Alright, next we're moving on to the drop. So if you guys want dubstep, this is when we'll hear the dubstep, okay? First, let's go through the effects. The effect I'll use right at the start, which follows the effect used at the end of the build-up, is first of all the glass break from Somatics, the sound of breaking glass. Oh man, total destruction. Next is the shotgun, which follows the gun cock and shotgun combo. When we put both the gun cock and shotgun together, it sounds like a full shot being fired. Finally, there's the cymatics impact. So this is what we hear when all the effects are turned on, from the end of the build-up into the drop. Alright, next we'll move on to the dubstep part. Let's see, as for our dubstep, to explain how it's written is actually going to be a bit difficult, because I won't be talking. I don't think it's necessary to go too deep into this, because the sounds I chose are almost all from one pack of Neckfifth. Mostly, I just find sounds that are okay in the dubstep electro 1 through 4. And here is what I wrote for the dubstep part. So here, first we have a doublet number 7 sound from the dubstep electro 3 leads. Next is doublet 4, but in stereo, still from dubstep electro 3. It's like it'll be used as a layer for the lead sound. And here, we'll move on to the bass from dubstep electro 4, and this is a layer hit number 1. Next is also a bass, but it's bass scream from dubstep electro 2. And one more is Bass Fox from Dubstep Electro 3. This'll be bass squaring from Dubstep Electro 2. That sound is pretty cool. If you guys want to use it for dubstep, you should keep the squaring sound, because it's really nice to use. Alright, and finally, it's a lead. The lead here is major from Dubstep Electro 4. So the total components of the sounds I chose to write this dubstep part are those sounds, mainly revolving around bass and lead. Let me play it for you guys to hear one more time. It sounds a bit wicked. You'll understand why it was written like that in a bit. Next is this is the drums for the dubstep. Alright, now it'll be the components of what metal will bring to us in this drop. So first, it'll be the guitar. This writing style is generally, you can tell it's characteristic of metal when you hear it, no mistaking it. The drop will hit a bit harder, and next will be the kick and snare for the metal drums. See what I mean? Simple and easy to understand. Because honestly, we don't necessarily have to create a drum pattern that's too intense. Sometimes just hitting the right main beats to create a drum groove that's punchy enough is all it takes to give us those grooves for headbanging. That's one cool thing. Next up is the cymbal. So, as you guys have seen in this upper section, for the verse and build-up parts, it mainly revolves around closed hi-hats or open hi-hats, but still at a light level. Now, coming to this drop section, I'm going to focus primarily on using the open hi-hat, but it's going to be at a much higher intensity, okay? Next up are these two cymbals right here. Two cymbals combined together to smack. You don't need to smack them all the time, but if you place them in the right spots, it sounds amazing, absolutely killer. Now, I'll let you guys hear how the full drum kit sounds. There, very simple. Whatever the guitar does, our bass will play exactly the same way. There's no difference at all. Let me give you guys a quick overview of the different components of metal, okay? For the kick, snare, as well as the cymbals, I'm using the VD Brute kick. But you guys should pay a little attention here, which is if we want to write drums for a metal style that needs to be chunky and heavy, then you should separate the kick and snare into one track, and then the cymbals will go into a separate track. Separating them like this makes it much easier for us to mix and get a sound that's heavy enough without things getting muddy or interfering with each other. So first, with the kick and snare, you see on track 21 here, I've put a sound goodizer to make the sound chunkier and heavier. As for the cymbals on track 22, I'm using Easy Mix and V Overhead there to make the cymbals airier and heavier. And now it's time for us to hear how the entire drop section sounds. You guys see that when the guitar combines with the lead and bass sounds of dubstep, that's when you really see it all becoming more cohesive. Initially, it might feel a bit confusing as to why it's suddenly written in this particular way, but in reality, we should try to look at it from the most positive perspective. There are almost no set rules or specific formulas for writing dubstep elements to make them sound good. When I personally sit down to write, the first thing we should do is select the specific sound quality that we need. Second, we can think and visualize in our minds how those dubstep sounds are going to flow. And gradually, step by step, we write and evaluate for ourselves whether it's right or if it needs any adjustments. Then, eventually, you'll start to develop your own dubstep style. Because if you're looking for a formula to sit down and make dubstep, that's pretty much impossible. It's a very brief and concise example for those of you who want to chop wood but still keep that metal feel. So we have Metalstep. I hope that this example can be helpful to you guys when it comes to making Metalstep beats.